So if you look at it, well, what is, what is the easiest way for these nice people to go home at night thinking I did a good job, I'm doing something meaningful, I'm helping children, and our court system, is socially relevant. Well, the results which ratify the status quo, and we asked the opinion of the child, and the child said they don't want to go. So we're nice people.
So because most children end up going with the mother, do you think most fathers, even if they wanted to see their kids, don't even bother trying to fight it because they think they'd lose? Or?
Well, that's something that is very difficult to know. A great deal is attached to. Well, a great deal is attached to the fact that 90% of people get these cooperative divorces, and a significant percentage of the remainder get what are called mediated divorces. They go through a few mediation sessions, and then agree to the mediated divorce.
You don't know of any
research? The thing that we don't know is how many of these people are just giving up on the system because they know what the result will be. What percentage of the supposedly cooperative divorces represent people who just know that it's pointless. It's pointless to fight, and that they should just give up and get on with their lives. I suspect that's not a small number, but I think it certainly is probably related to the fairly, high incidence, and I don't have statistics handy of fathers who don't pay child support, of fathers who don't try to see their children.
So the case of Koizumi having two of his sons and never seeing the other sons with his mother, is that fairly normal in Japan?
I think that used to be more of the norm, but again, I don't know what the numbers are.
So it sounds like there's a whole host of things that make the situation difficult. What would you like to see change? Any specific laws, or?
I personally, because the courts interpret the law. So unless you are willing to sit down and write a fairly detailed law that says, judges, look, you've got to do this, and you can't do that. If you come up with a sort of touchy-feely law like joint custody is an option, I don't know that will change anything very much, particularly in these cases of parents who aren't able to see their children, because courts now basically say, well, we'll award visitation if both parents agree to it. So we'll award joint custody if both parents agree to it, but otherwise you're fighting, and seeing their parents fight is bad for children, so we're not going to award joint custody, and we're not going to award visitation. The change that I would like to see is actually an amendment to the child abuse prevention law, which isn't a law that actually makes child abuse a criminal offense. It's more a law intended to facilitate the detection of child abuse. But there's a definition of what constitutes child abuse. And I think that if you defined denial of access to a loving parent as a form of child abuse, which is the case in some countries, that would make it harder for the people within the system to go home at night thinking, well, today by not letting the child see his dad, I did a good thing. Make it more likely that they will go home thinking that they're contributing to a form of child abuse. I think that's an approach that is needed, rather than the straight-on, we should have a statute that says joint custody, and I'm not suggesting that would not be a good change. Just that the way the courts have dealt with laws that it has found inconvenient so far suggests that we have to always think, well, what is the court's interest, or the court system's interest, and the interest of individual judges going to be when it comes to applying this law.
How about the specific California law that you mentioned, outlining what?
I think a clear statement that continuing contact between both parents with both parents after divorce is in the best interest of the child would also be very helpful. And there are efforts underway to draft legislation for visitation, which I think would accomplish, or would at least accomplish that. In theory, you still have the enforcement issue, which is there's no real sanctions that apply to failure to comply with visitation.
And what are you doing? Like, what kind of activism?
I just go around and talk and meet with people and shoot off my mouth.
And what kind of groups are you involved with the parents?
I've worked with, they change a lot in terms of membership, but I think I've worked with most of the parents' rights groups that are focused on the issue of visitation and joint custody. I also have worked with, I've given seminars and talks at a number of events sponsored by foreign embassies in Japan, because the foreign embassies have been very vociferous in trying to get Japan to do something about this issue, particularly in the international context. But part of what I've always been trying to do is make sure that it's understood that it's not just an international foreigners in Japan issue. It is a domestic Japanese issue as well.
So your colleagues, your Japanese colleagues at law school, do they have similar opinions to you about how the law could change in the future, or do some people think it's fine the way it is?
And this is not something I talk about a great deal. I think that particularly in Japanese academia, there's an understanding that there are many things in the Japanese legal system which need to be dealt with. Part of that comes from being an academic. You got a lot of free time to sit around and find fault with things. But I think this issue is just one reflection of sort of a bigger issue in the legal system in Japan. There's a lot of talk about legal reform, but it's never been clear to me the extent to which the legal system actually exists for the people of Japan as opposed to the people who operate the legal system. And you know, in many ways, the government agencies are run for the benefit of the people in the government agencies on a certain level. And that's, again, why when looking at these issues, you sort of need to think, well, what's the court system's interest in this? And I think that as a result of that, one of the interesting things is that there doesn't seem a lot of interest in external feedback. And I've seen this in other areas of legal reform as well, where all of the people involved in the system, and there's a certain effort to sort of co-opt, academics and representatives from the outside. When there's a discussion of, say, how family court should work, or what's in the best interest of the child, or in the area of the law school, of my area, which is, or another of my areas is the new Japanese law school system and the changes that are being brought to the legal profession. There's a sort of these discussions of, on the one hand, what's in the best interest of the child, on the other hand, well, what sort of legal services do the people of Japan need, and what sort of lawyers should we produce? There's no effort at all, almost, to actually talk to the children, because children grow up, so it would be perfectly possible to do a follow-up survey on children of divorce and say, well, what would you have liked to have happened? What didn't you like? And what I've never seen any effort to actually try to follow the children whose fate the courts have decided, and see whether that was a good result. Was that actually in the best interests of the child? And I think there's some sort of filter that people in that system don't want to know. They just want to self-evaluate, say we are doing what's in the best interest of the child without actually doing an external evaluation. And you see that in other areas, these discussions about sort of what should the legal profession of the 21st century be in Japan. There's no real effort to go and find out what legal services people need. What do the people want from lawyers? What do the people want from the legal system?